That's what that was. So are you feeling confident?
I think it's just having more, I don't want to say practice, but more cognizance of things.
Right. Are you feeling more intuitive?
I feel like I am. And I know with me, it kind of, the way I describe it is it's a plink. It's a plunk into me. It's a thought that comes out of nowhere. Like I know that my thoughts and things I'm thinking about just kind of roll through and all that kind of thing. And then, but I know when it's my intuition, it kind of plunks out of nowhere. Is how I picture it and think of it when I know it's my intuition.
Yeah. Does anybody feel more of a psychic ability than others? Like, is anybody feeling like more clara audio or clara sentient or cognizant or clairvoyant? Anybody feeling any of those things?
I only feel it when I know that I'm saying something and it's not that I'm not present, but the words are coming out of my mouth. They're making sense to the person.
Yeah.
And they're connecting, and the person is actually coming alive. And I have no it's like it doesn't belong to me.
Right. You know, it's funny because that happens to me a lot too, where I will say something psychically to somebody, and they will remember it. They might even write it down. They might journal about it. And then they'll come back to me like 3 years later and be like, remember when you said this amazing thing? And I have no memory of it because it wasn't mine for me to hold on to. That was just for you to hold on to. And it was just me that was just relaying that message to that person. So it's just funny because like when intuition happens, a lot of times when it's working for somebody else, it's not ours to really like need to hold on to, you know? So that's pretty fantastic.
And well, I have to make that decision when I'm working with a client, you know, in therapy, and you know, this is part of therapy, and I'm supposed to be aware, and I don't take explicit notes like he said, she said, or anything. But afterwards, I go, "Now, did I really say that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was I really talking about?" So I have to check in with the client what they heard. What did you hear? Are usually my phrase.
You know, and I think
tell me what I said.
And I honestly think that's even better because now you're listening more. You're hearing more than just the person's words. You're actually hearing their whole persona. And so it's like when you're reading somebody like that, you're picking up all the clues. It's not just about what they're saying with their voices, which is incredible because then it's like you can have a real conversation. You can respond with actual goodness, like some substance that you need, you know? So that's fantastic. Anybody else feeling the way that Deanna is feeling? Anybody?
It just kind of goes in and out with my hearing, and especially like late at night. I mean, and I know when I'm thinking, I know exactly where it is, but then I just have this popping in. And they're not my voice, so I'm like, okay, so I'm starting to listen a little bit more on that.
Nice.
Which is good.
Nice.
I feel like I just have to slow down. Like, if I have to slow down because if I go too fast, that's when I miss stuff, and then I'll be back like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
After.
Absolutely. That's really important to understand too, is that like taking it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and in really understanding everything that is coming at you. That's why yoga is so cool, because yoga really gives you an opportunity to slow everything down and start to feel things on a sensitive level. Listening to how does that feel? What is that sensation? What is that like for you? When you go into those yoga practice with that kind of feeling, you start to awaken and bring your awareness to your mind about other ways of being besides just think. Anything that you can do to find those ways of slowing it down. Meditation as well. Also a good way of letting things go. You know, so That's good that you guys are kind of in that place. I keep saying to Jason, I'm like, the women in this group are so powerful. Like, I don't even think that you guys really understand what you are doing with this work right now. And the more that you practice it, and the more that you work with it, and the more that we meet, the better you're going to become at understanding this whole idea of healing each one of the center points. Because those center points are connected to some greatness within you that once you practice it and work with it, you can really begin to understand that you got a lot more going for you than you even realized. So that's a really fantastic kind of point of view to be in, especially in the times that we're in right now. And so this is why we want to work with each one of the chakras. We want to get a little better each time, and we want to really focus on doing the best that we can with what we got, and not judging so harshly and not being so attached to things. You understand what I'm saying here? So when we're talking about the next chakra, we're talking about the crown chakra. And that crown chakra is an incredible experience because it's really about letting go of attachments. Now, it's about letting go of the clutter that prevents you from seeing your truth. And there's a difference between having an attachment to something and having a commitment or a goal to something. And so it's really important to start understanding where you are in your attachments. This is going to be incredibly important to move forward in your life right now. And letting the law of detachment, and this comes from Deepak Chopra now. And he talks about continuing a practice of letting go, of showing up in the present moment and resulting in a practice. This is about focusing your awareness into your body and taking yourself into accountability, finding out who this self is. It's the reflection of consciousness. So who is the self? Who are we really? So we really need to step back for a moment because we're in the crown chakra. So we're no longer the physical body. We are the spiritual body. And so now we have to take a step back and ask, who is the self? And self is consciousness. So the consciousness is the mind and the universe. And so it's really about learning how to detach yourself from outcomes. And it's understanding that your consciousness is taking you into either attaching yourself to something, some idea, someone, or detaching yourself from the experience and becoming part of the experience. So it really is about recognizing how you see yourself. How is it do you see yourself? Do you attach yourself to all of these ideas and specifics that really are just ideas and specifics, but not really who you really are inside? So start to take a second and start to reinvent yourself a little bit. And understand that your body is an expression of consciousness. And how you get involved with the outside world and how you have identified yourself is really going to take you into a point of who are you? Are you events? Are you situations? Are you circumstances? And are you the people that you're looking at? How do you compare yourself to other people? How you judge yourself to other people? How you fit in is how you have identified and labeled yourself, okay? And so now I'm talking about when you're doing that, you are at the mercy of everyone else around you. When you start to look at yourself and you start to identify yourself based upon looking at the world around you on your attachments, now you are no longer the self. You are now looking at yourself and validating your identity based upon the world around you. So all day long, you're validating yourself based on other people. So when you say that you don't really care about what other people are thinking, well, if that was true, why are you hiding? Or why are you reacting? Why are you speaking? Why does it matter so much to you? So that is because you're attached to the identity of where you are in that scenario. Does that make sense to you? Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? Do you know where I'm going with this, with attachments? All right. So how do you identify yourself right now? You know, in a very natural way, we're going to say, okay, we're women, my age, where I live. Those things are what we've attached to our identity. We've attached our consciousness to those ideas, right? And so it is now time to rewind it and take a step back from what you've identified yourself as, who you've identified yourself with. Attaching yourself to things or ideas causes you more anxiety and depression than what you even know what to do with, right? So the thing that you have to do is think, for instance, about, let's say you want to identify with your body, right? So that can be a struggle. Identifying with your body is a struggle because our body is changing all the time. As we age, our body changes with the age, right? So if you're identifying yourself and you've identified yourself from that 20-year-old version of yourself, but now you're not 20 years old anymore, you're always going to be sad about who you look in the mirror about because you are identifying your persona with the outside world. And so that's not really fair now, is it? If you identify yourself from that 20-year-old version of yourself, but you've changed so much over time, you are living in the past about that person in the past of who you were. So no, you cannot be happy with the person you are today because you're constantly trying to identify, reaching for that person that you once were. That's not you anymore. And it's trying to take that step back and identify with a different identity. Let's change your identity. Does anybody want to change your identity for today? How do you feel about changing your identity? Sounds kind of interesting, a little exciting, a little bit nervous maybe?
All those things.
Right? A little bit, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that your true identity is the awareness of everything that is around you. Your identity is based upon your awareness. And so you're taking your memories and your ideas and your thoughts from your past and trying to build it and pull it into your present moment and identify yourself. You're burdened with your memories and the responses that no longer are for situations that happen to you anymore. You're not that same person anymore, but yet you'll still take a response from that 20-year-old version of yourself and take it and spill it out of your mouth right now. And so that doesn't really work for a balanced version of you now. Doesn't work anymore. We can't talk about what happened to you when you were raising your children 20 years ago. That's not you right now. Those experiences don't exist. You're not that same person. You're not that same persona. Those are not your identities. And trying to identify yourself based upon the person you once were is exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting trying to identify yourself with the person that you once were. Right? Wouldn't you say? And then it gets confusing, doesn't it? So once you get confused, it becomes anxiety. So it's the idea is that we have to acquire a new way of doing things. We have to let go of our attachments. We have to let go. And what do you think that means? What do you think it means to let go of attachments? So we're on a journey and I have attachments. Where do you think I go with my attachments from my past?
I don't think you can go anywhere with attachments from your past.
Well, you know what happens is we start creating stories of our future. We start creating all of these scenarios of what we think is going to happen based upon what has already happened.
So outcomes.
We are attached to the results and how to get to those results. And when you let go of that experience, then you get to be anything, anywhere, anytime, and you begin to start to understand that there's no question of your true self. Your true self is in the moments. You know, let's say that your dream is to be a writer. Let's say your dream in your world you want to be a writer someday, right? Well, the only reason why you're not a writer, but you write every day, is because you chose not to say that you're a writer. You chose to say that about yourself. So attachments equal fear and insecurities. Those attachments equal fears and insecurities. So let's think about this for a moment, okay? Now let's talk about wealth, abundance, because I know all of us have some idea of what abundance looks like to us, right? So abundance is something of the physical world. So when we want to get to the source of abundance, it's anything of the physical world is self. Our self is creating abundance, right? So our consciousness is creating everything that is going on around us. So take a step back right now. We're not this physical world. We are this vibration frequency higher than you could even imagine. You're a wavelength right now. So this is where we need to go in order to let go of attachments. We have to take the idea that we are a wave. And when we create this frequency, that frequency, like when we hit the side of a singing bowl, that creates this frequency, this wave, this pattern. And that pattern comes away from us and into the world so that it reaches everything that brings us from our thoughts and our creativity. All right? So I want you to imagine that consciousness is that vibration, right? And everything else is a symbol. Everything is a symbol. A car is a symbol. A banknote is a symbol. A house is a symbol. Clothes are a symbol. All of those things are symbols. And they're temporary symbols that come in and out of our life all the time. All right? So now we're the frequency, and in this frequency, there's these symbols, these notes that come in and out of our frequency all the time, and they change. So when we're trying to chase wealth, we're chasing a symbol, but we try to become the symbol, and that's where it becomes discord. Think about how we try to become something that we're not. We try to become the car. We try to become the house. We try to become the $1 million. We don't become this frequency having a human experience anymore. We're not having the experience of that symbol. We try to become the symbol. And so we can't. And that is what becomes very exhausting to us, causing anxiety, causing feelings of emptiness, causing feelings of hollowness. So it becomes a feeling of poverty consciousness. Never having enough becomes that feeling, that symbol of you're chasing your dreams. You're chasing that frequency, chasing that symbol over there. So that is where we take away, it's detaching yourself from the symbols is what we need to do. Right now, if you're trying to become the symbol and you're having a hard time, that's because you're creating attachment to that symbol. That's my car. That's my house. That's my money. That's mine. And we try to attach ourselves to it, and we can never have enough. And it's like we're always feeling that never have enough because we're trying to become the symbol. So only from detachment can you find the freedom to create and to feel love and to feel joy? Because no longer are we trying to attach ourselves to that experience, but we're trying to become one with enjoying it by staying away from it and saying, wow, that's a beautiful symbol over there. Wow, that looks really... And we don't judge it. We just become aware of it, become seeing of it. We're the observer of it. Does that make sense? That's a very hard thing for our ego to understand. Our ego does not want to hear this. Our ego does not want to say, oh, no, I am that. I am the writer. I am the massage therapist. I am the healer. I am the yoga instructor. When I put those qualities on myself, I limit myself to everything else that I could be. because I'm attaching myself to only those ideas that I say that I am. I lose all the other things that I could be. Does that make sense? Why is it getting uncomfortable for everybody right now? It's hard to let go of attachments, isn't it? Does that make sense? What's the struggle right now? What do you think the struggle is?
Because we're used to identifying with what's around us and what we have and what we do. So it's a way of kind of saying, oh, I guess I'm not that.
Mm-hmm. Another attachment of what you're not. You notice how we're trying to find security in our stuff, in our ideas. But we're not realizing the security comes from that frequency, the self. Consciousness, we're consciousness, creating this beautiful coloring book based on our feelings and our thoughts and our ideas. There's something called the law of attraction. I'm sure we've read The Secret or heard The Secret a million times. The law of attraction. You feel it, you believe it, you think it, you create it, right? What do you think gets in our way? When we are not comfortable with uncertainties, we need to identify with how it's going to be, what that's going to look like. How is that going to look like when it gets here? I'm not telling you not to have the car or want that house or want those things. That's not how I'm telling you. That's the beauty of it all. We're still creators in all of this. It's how we get there that changes and what we do with it when we get there. So the biggest thing is understanding that we can become prisoners of attachment, helplessness, hopelessness, mundane, fear of the mediocre existence. How many of us are afraid of that? Have a mediocre life.
Oh, I felt like I was living it.
Right? Isn't
For a
that
while.
something that comes through us? So we're not feeling that we're like having to get where we want to be. The true wealth is the ability to have anything that you want, anytime you want it, with least effort. Least effort is how we get there. But we think we have to work hard. Where does that come from? We have to work hard, long hours, long days. Where do you think that comes from? Yes, that's a belief system. So to find groundedness, this is how we do this. To find the groundedness is to become more comfortable in uncertainty. We are in this right now to finally let go of attachments. You know how we do that? We let go of fear of uncertainty. We want to try to wrap it up in a nice ribbon on how our life should work because of how of the things that we've seen in our past. We're still living in our past when we're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. You know, like people asking me if I'm going to open up my doors soon. The answer is no. And the next question is when do you think? I don't know. But people aren't comfortable with that. Ooh, don't know. No, I don't know. That's not good enough. Oh, I need to know. What's that going to look like? How's it going to be? The answer is it's uncertain. And instead of feeling scared for uncertainty, we need to be excited because that's how we let go of attachments.
Yeah.
Because the thing is okay, let's say you have a really amazing idea, right? You have this great idea of this new product or this new business idea or this new adventure that you want to go on. But all of a sudden you start getting into 2 years from now, 5 years from now, what that's going to look like. How's that going to be? How's it going to look, right? Well, remember, when we do a vision board, we're not trying to figure out how any of those things. We're just trying to figure out, this is what I like. This is what I'm going after. These are the goals that I have in mind. But we're not saying, I'm going to take a left down this way, take a right, take the highway over here, spin around and go 3 minutes and then come back around outside that way. But that's what our egos want us to do. Our egos want us to have a clear point cut idea as to this is the direction that I need to go in order to get to where I need to go. And so really, that is attachment. That is attachment completely. You're no longer giving it up to the universe to decide. You are holding on to the attachment and chasing your dreams. And then you're into hopelessness, helplessness, and mundane. Because you are not letting go. You are not letting go of attachments. You're just holding on tight, fearing for your future. Your past self, thinking about all the things that have happened in your past, that is causing you fear of what's going to happen in the future because you have no idea what's happening next week. And that's real. That is absolutely happening to all of us right now. 100%.
Yep.
You know? Some of you thought of, oh my God, I could be dead next week. Some of you thought of, oh my God, I could have corona. Some of you thought of, oh my God, I'm going to the bar. Some of you thought, I am never leaving my house again. But the bottom line is you're still thinking about what you don't have any ideas about. You're trying to plan. You're holding on to attachments. And the thing is, I will tell you, you will be way better off than everybody around you if we can let go of our attachments. Because guess what? Those are attachments to the old way of doing things. We will never be past Corona. Even when Corona doesn't exist, we'll still talk about the days before Corona. That is the facts. That's the reality. But if we can let go of what we think is certainty, and jump into uncertainty with excitement and adventure and the unknown, we will be more safe and secure in our lives. So it's like we're never going to find what we're looking for because security cannot come from money alone. So when we're chasing that money dream, we know that money isn't going to make us happy. It's not. Even millionaires are sad and lonely. So then you have to understand that the unknown is where you're going to find security. Even though it feels so scary right now. Because we have been taught, we have grown up with the idea of plan ahead. Plan ahead. We have been taught, see, this is the universe. The universe wants this big one. We are taught to plan ahead. To plan ahead. But we forget that there is so much more that we can be doing. Like learning that we can think quick on our feet. That we don't need to have study time for every experience in our life. There could be overkill on things. So the idea is...
Still plan for retirement, though.
Still plan for retirement, though. But why? I mean, yes, if that's the mentality that you have. You know what I mean? And that's where you have to find your security, right? This is what you've been taught, that I have to plan on security. What if I plan for retirement my whole entire life, right? I'm working. I hit 65 and I figure out this awesome recipe for fried chicken. And I go and I sell fried chicken to all my neighbors and I make it big. Did I need to plan for retirement? That's the thing, is the uncertainty is the uncertainty. Holding on to attachments is holding on to attachments. And listen, I'm not telling you not to plan retirement. You do what you feel is right.
That's what we do, though.
But I think that we, at least I'll speak for me, like my entire life has always been safety, security, make sure you have that safety nets in all different ways and have that establish the certainty because you need that. And I think that's where the uncomfortableness comes in of realizing that I don't need to have it. And there is moments where I'm really good and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't need the uncertainty, I can handle the uncertainty. And there's other times where I'm like terrified. Right.
And that's what I'm saying. That is when you start going in the opposite direction of detachment. You're attaching when you're terrified, you know what terrified is? You have committed to yourself that this is the only reality that I want to live in. And when they're forcing me to do something different, I'm scared because I don't want to change. I don't want to change. I don't want to do. And that's what happens. And that is what happens. It's terrifying because you have attached yourself that this is the only direction that I can go in. So when you have attached yourself to that's the only direction that you can go in, you have limited yourself to all the other places that you can go.
The other options.
All the other
And
options
I realize it at the time, and that's the only thing that I do is I come back and say, just be present in this moment in time. Just be present where you are and let it go.
Right.
And I
So
think
is that
that's,
where the go with the flow is a little bit? And not
Exactly.
really about
and I think that's the difference between like planning and knowing what you want to do, making sure that you're doing something about it, but not obsessing with it and allowing it to happen the way it's supposed to happen, knowing that you're doing the pieces that you need to do and trusting in that.
Faith is number one. Faith is absolutely number one. Because here's the thing I'm talking to you about right now. At the crown chakra, you are no longer the human being. You are the vibration and frequency. So in order for you to really conceptualize, that means to step away from the physical. It means to go into your spirituality. And I'm not talking religion. I'm talking your spirituality. Your faith in who you are. What does that mean when you look at yourself and see beyond the human? Who are you? What do you call that? What does that feel like to you in your body? Do you even feel it when it's moving through you? Do you feel those goosebumps when you are connected so strongly in what you are saying? Because that comes from higher self. That comes from the wisdom of godliness. Deanna, all the things that you talk to your clients about or that words come out of you, that is still you, but that is the highest form and frequency of you possible. It is like your wisdom. Like, I love that Deanna has that experience because that's exactly what it comes from for me too when I'm speaking from intuition. It comes from my higher self. It's the wisdom of finding the silence within. And so it's our willingness to step into the unknown is what you...
The poses too, you know.
What's that?
We can watch you freeze too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I just hope that you're really understanding what I'm saying. Do you think about when you meditate and you're going into your crown chakra, do you think about who you are?
Yeah. I think about where I was, and I think about the journey to where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't entail any, I think I got to a good place because it did not entail any outcome identification on my part. I got sick of the outcomes and being disappointed. And then I realized that it wasn't right for me. It wasn't a right thing for us to do, to anticipate and expect. And there's a difference between, okay, you anticipate and expect and then you get disappointed. Then the other side is you anticipate and expect and you realize that you really are better and you feel more comfortable if you're just going with it. You're in the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I struggled a lot with that. I mean, I'm so much better now, but I struggled a lot with looking into the future and figuring out in my mind how the day was going to go. You know, how I was going to say what I was going to say or what I was going to do and how I was going to do it and how I was going to act or without even thinking. It was just part of what I did is here's my expectation for the day or for the week. And it's been really difficult, and I'm so much better, but it's been really difficult kind of just saying, let it unfold the way it's supposed to unfold. This is what I want to accomplish, and not how I'm going to accomplish it, or when, but that's my goal for today, and kind of letting that flow through and getting done how it happens.
And that's absolutely true because the thing is that you still want to have goals. You still want to put goals in front of yourself because we're constantly growing and changing and learning as we go. And so we want to make sure that we're not stopping ourselves from living, but we just want to make sure that when we're choosing to go in a direction and we're listening to our journey and where is it unfolding, that we're being guided, that we're not alone, that we're not just like randomly bumping into walls like people want to think. When you are really connecting to higher self and wisdom, you are going to understand that we are connecting to that journey, that place that we're supposed to go. And so the idea is to just have faith and trust that you're on the right path. That's it. And when something comes up that feels good to you, go with it. If something comes up that changes your direction completely, go with it. The thing is here's what I want you to understand. When I'm asking you to let go of your attachments, that's grief. You're gonna go into forms of grief from this, because I'm asking you to take away some of your old routines, right? And so, like you were saying about how you've been taught to save and to put money aside and to always have that little cushion egg, whatever. I don't think that's a bad idea to do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is that, like, when you're chasing that $1 million idea or trying to change your whole life, or like you want to lose 150 pounds in 2 months because that's the way it goes. You know, like you just have these crazy ideas in your mind and you're going to be like, I am not going to eat for 5 days and I'm just going to do a water diet. And then you're like passing out because you just can't do that. That's not okay. You know, but it's like
Shucks.
trying to figure out ways of doing things and then trying to figure out the steps to get there, and thinking that you know what the next step is without really like taking a step back and saying, is this the only way to do this? Is this the only way to get to where I want to go? Is this the only way to do this? You know, like, this is a good idea. Hug it, nurture it, and let it go and say, okay, this is one idea. I hope this might work. Go with it for a minute, see if this works for you. And then if it doesn't, take a step back and go in a different direction. The universe is there for you. It's guiding you. But there's no, this is how it is. This is how it's done. This is the way you do it. There is no instruction manual. I'm sorry, that they're just not. And so it's really about taking the steps to stop forcing solutions to problems that you don't have answers to. Where you want it to happen like this so bad that you don't want to listen to any other situation. You just want it this way. And then you don't realize that there's so many other ways to do it out there. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right? So what do you think some of our attachments that you have are? What are some of the attachments you have?
Well, I think some of it too is like how you think something's going to happen as well. And you're limiting, you know, like I've noticed that with myself, that you think about like how something would happen, but really, I mean, there's infinite ways that you could get to that point.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
And you limit yourself when you only think of whatever your number of outcomes you think are.
So
We limit ourselves.
and I love that you said that, because, for instance, like, I have had for the last 20 years this feeling of not as good as some other people because of the letters that they have behind their name. And that is a huge thing that a lot of people in our society today have put into our heads. That you have to be certified in this, you have to do it like this, you have to do it like that in order for you to say that you're this. And it really, you know, puts people in categories. So you're only allowed to look at things this way, or you're only allowed to do things this way. So for instance, like, you know, for massage therapy, craniosacral, there are some states that say that you can't work in any of orifices, like in the mouth, right? So I've had my license down in Florida and I've had my license in Connecticut. And so I have had training in working in the mouth, and I'm actually really good at it, and I do a really good job of helping with TMJ and all sorts of things. I think the mouth is one of the most underrated places to work because it's right inside, right underneath your brain, and B, the mouth has a lot of connecting points energetically like the feet do with like reflexology. The mouth has very similar kind of connections inside. And I've discovered those connections while I work in there. So you're trying to tell me that because I'm in Florida, I can do this, but in, let's say, Texas, I'm not allowed to, that's right. You know, and that I should be limited like that, right? So it goes to show you that our limitations, yes, there's some laws, so I do have to go through the law situation, and I'm not saying break laws. I'm saying is that, like, when we view ourselves, how much are we limiting ourselves based on the attachments we have to those ideas? So I can never do this because of this. I can never be this because of this. I can never do this because of this. Because some way, somehow, you've reached, this is the criteria in order for me to be this person and identify as this person. So until I have this criteria, I cannot identify with this person, and I will therefore be striving to be that person forever. Does that make sense?
Doesn't that come from our stories that we have
And those are attachments.
attached to?
Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Your stories you're attached to.
Right, and because it's our environment and it's what everybody or other people expect.
Exactly. So what I am asking you to do when you go to the crown chakra is I want you to identify with yourself as this vibration. Does any of those labels matter when you're in that vibration?
No.
No. Do you think that anything matters in this human world when you are that high in that frequency?
No.
Do you know what you're feeling in that frequency? You're feeling love, peace, tranquility. But we can't fully get ourselves to that level until you start going through the attachments. Until you stop attaching yourself to so many different labels that hold you into this physical body. So that is the way that we reach ourselves and lift ourselves away from this, is we stop giving in to our attachments. We stop listening to those things and saying, oh, I am this, or oh, I am that, or I have to do it this way because of this, this, and this. It's really about taking a step back and letting go of your attachments. It's letting go of the things that no longer serve you anymore, because you're not that 20-year-old anymore. You don't need to think like that 20-year-old anymore. But your brain and your body inside, those connecting pieces may not know that you're not that 20-year-old person anymore. Because let's go back to that analogy that you are a mirror that has been shattered into tiny little pieces. And those tiny little pieces have frozen time in your body. So when our body goes back to those memories, it's like placeholders within our space that we hold on to and we think about and we go back to and we get feelings of. And so those really deep heartbreaks, those are really thick shards of glass, right? And in those shards of glass are memories and the person that we once were in that shard of glass. So it's almost like we've taken a part of time and we put it into a shard of glass and we stuck it inside of our bodies and we called those energy cysts. And so when we go to those places and we're meditating, don't you think we're going to twinge that time frequency, and go back into that memory and think and feel exactly how we did in that moment that got us to where we are? Do you think about that for a moment? Think of that analogy and think about that, because those time spaces, those places that you're holding on from when you were 20 years old, are making your mind and body think you're still there. You think you're still there in those moments, those shards. All right? So when we're trying to balance ourselves, we're taking those things that no longer serve us anymore and we're pulling them out. We're pulling them aside, or you can imagine them coming back together as one. Whatever analogy you want to do, the whole idea is that your memories are your attachments when you keep them connected to those emotions. So I have memories. I have memories of myself as a kid singing and dancing, because I loved to sing and dance when I was a kid. I thought I was going to be a singing sensation. You know, the mall singing. I thought I was going to be that in the 80s. Like, I loved it. I was that girl, right? That's all I did all day long. Now, I have those memories, right? Like, does it give me a twinge of, like, happy when I think about it? Yeah. But I don't go back and recall it as, like, I am a failure because I didn't become a singer when I grew up. I didn't really have the voice to do it, first of all. And second of all, that wasn't my plan, right? But, like, do you know that memory is still it's a memory of mine. I get laughter when I think about it, but I don't have that emotional baggage attached to that memory. So I'm sure you can think of memories like that, where, like, that was a really good memory, that was great, you'd smile, but it's not like that burdening, traumatic, or saddening, or I'm a failure, or that wasn't fair, or all the things that get stuck in our body from those times in our life that we just, like, said, I am not going to forget this. I'm going to attach myself to this feeling. And so every time something comes up and it reminds you of that feeling, that twinge comes back again. So see how the crown chakra and the sacral chakra are connected. See how the root chakra and the sacral chakra and the crown chakra and the throat chakra and the third eye chakra are all related. Because each one of them has a ping of frequency that really, it affects the rest. So the idea is to come into that enlightened stage, into that crown chakra, is to come and become okay and let go of those attachments and let go of the uncertainty. So when you move forward in your life, when you're moving forward, you don't have to think about how did I do that back then, because you're not that person anymore. And you get to forgive yourself for being that person you once were. And you can just be the individual that you are now. You can be where you are right now. Be happy with where you are right now. Try not to judge that place. Remember when I was saying before in the beginning about how, like, the car is a symbol, the house is a symbol. Like, when you, like, think about the wavelengths and you're thinking about frequency, right? And then all of a sudden a house comes to your front of your view, of your consciousness, and that is a symbol. The house is a symbol, and it's vibrating at that frequency of house, right? So now we're in this crown chakra. We're no longer physical. So house has to have a different frequency than money, than fame, than fortune, than family, than love. Each one of them has its individual frequency that becomes matter. Just like when I talk about energy, starting out as a particle, that's energy moving fast, speaking to one another and information. And then the molecules speaking to one another, giving each other information. And then it grows into this physical form called a body. Now, everything has its own information, its own frequency, and its own matter. So think about that when you're in the wavelength of frequency from your crown chakra. It's no longer a physical reality, a physical matter. It's a frequency. So if you're calling in something that you want, grow up to the crown chakra and think about that frequency and how that sounds to you. What does that frequency feel like to you? What does it smell like to you? What does it sound like to you? Create the frequency here. Build it up. Create it, because you're a creative being. And then watch how it comes down into physical reality for you, based upon your creative abilities. No longer coming from a physical, ooh, I want this phone. This physical, when we are in physical form trying to create this like magic, do you know how hard that is? Do you know how hard it is to create it physically? Ask the quantum physicists that are trying to create it physically right now in their labs. In the laboratories, they're trying to do that. Coming from a physical world, creating something physical is a lot more difficult. Okay, Sully. Now Sully has something to say. I swear to God. I'm talking about some really intense stuff. Hey. It's okay.
The universe is really.
I'm being yelled at a lot. I must be onto something here today. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
This is a pretty powerful one tonight.
It is pretty powerful because I'm asking you about letting go of your frequency. You know, I'm letting go, and that is not easy. It is not easy to let go, and that is the biggest thing right now, is that you have to identify some attachments and go through a very healing process to get there. So, like, just take this slowly.
Gosh.
Take it slowly and understand that there is going to be a process to letting go of attachments. This isn't an overnight sensation. This is something that takes time. And so what I'm asking you to do is understand, go back to the beginning when we talked about grief and the stages of grief that there are. So sometimes we're going to be in denial, all right? And when we're in denial, it's, oh, I'm okay with uncertainty. Yes, I am okay. I'm okay with uncertainty, but you're really not. And so you attach more to the idea of, I needed to look like this, God. So you start bargaining for it. God, look it like this, please. I want it to look like this. I'm comfortable with this way, right? And so you go through all of those places within yourself, to being angry, damn it, why isn't it this way? To, oh my God, I'm so depressed, it's this way. To finally accepting, yeah, it's this way. It's uncertainty. It just is the way it is. I don't know what's next, you know? This is for all the people that expected that on May 20th that we were going to open our doors and that we were going to be able to be open for everybody. You know, these are the people that are freaking out right now, that don't know how to do this because they were attached to an idea. They were attached to this idea, and that was the only thing that they were thinking about, and now they are devastated because this idea is not coming forward the way they thought it was going to. And so guess what happens? Guess what happens? They're sad, they're depressed, they're miserable. So
And
guess,
they're picketing.
yeah. That's
And not
exactly,
at a safe distance apart.
exactly. So now they're becoming even more just upset, you know? And so here's the thing. It's like, okay, so now bust away the certainty. Go into the unknown. I have no idea what tomorrow brings. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow they'll wake up and say, guess what? It's a big joke. April Fools. Who knows? You know, who knows? Maybe aliens arrive tomorrow. I have no idea. I let it be open to everything. We might go through this whole entire ascension process that I hear about. We move to 5D or the 6th dimension. You know, there are so many different things that I have heard come out of people's mouths in the last 4 months that I have never heard in my life. Well, I have heard it, but not everybody has heard it, and now it's coming out. That it's like, yes, people are becoming awakened. So now is important to get ourselves to that realization that we are now needing to change our ways. Change the reality by not knowing for sure what's going to happen. How's everybody doing with this?
Good. I really love having things to take away and ponder and really understand
Yeah.
and feel, not just cognitively, but here, around.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why I'm continuing with these classes, because the thing is that, like, okay, so I've worked on 1 through 7 so far. We have the 8th one to go. And the thing is that, like, I'm sure we can cover a lot more, can't we? Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a lot more ideas and a lot more concepts and a lot more that we can put into this, that we can be even better. And there are going to be more people joining because more people want to hear this. So now you guys are the first to go through the series, but the next time I go around with this, it's going to be a little different. There's going to be a little bit more to talk about. There's going to be a lot more to share. And the thing is that you are still going to go through these processes. Grief is ever happening. It's happening all the time. We're always going to go through our moments of grief where we're in acceptance today. Oh, shoot, we're back into denial again. But that's because we're on a journey. We're changing all the time. This is like the same thing about attaching to the idea of we're attached to our physical body, right? The problem is that our cells are changing on a regular basis. Every 7 years, our body is changing with just their liver. Then there's other organs that change more frequently. The thing is that cells are changing. So if, let's say right now, you are in the most amazing, positive mindset right now. Guess where your cells are creating? Your cells are creating a positive, amazing mindset right now. You are feeding your cells perfect, beautiful health and wellness, right? So that's the thing here. 10 years ago, you might have had a whole different view on what you thought that it was going to look like. Maybe you had a very negative point of view. Maybe you've had a very different view on yourself physically. So then maybe your cells grew different. Maybe you were told that you had high blood pressure, or you were going to become a diabetic, or maybe you were told these things from your doctor about the way that you were. So okay, so now you're changing the process. You're changing the process. And so now the cells are changing. Now you're healing. Now you're getting better. So now you're actually healthier than you were 10 years ago. This is what happens. So that's the thing, is so when you identify with the 10 years ago version of yourself, you're not really being fair to yourself because you're not that person anymore. But we as the ego doesn't understand that. So the more that you can explain that to yourself, the more you can let go of the past. Because that's what it comes down to. The more we identify with the past, the worse it becomes. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Awesome. Anything you guys want to say? Anything that you really feel like, that you need help with, or you're not understanding, or you feel like you could do more with?
I'm just gonna say another fantastic class. Like
Nice.
Without question.
a lot of thought and insight, and
Yeah.
a lot to meditate on tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Every class I'm doing like notes. You should see my notes. This book is full of notes just from all of the classes that I'm teaching, because it's important. And I'm getting things from a lot of different sources. It's not just for one or another. I want you to know that I'm really researching this stuff because I believe strongly in it, and I think that it's important that you really can get that message clear through what I've learned through my past. This is stuff that I am trying to do on a regular basis, but I am still working at this. When I get to my meditation and I get to my crown chakra, that is the hardest for me to open. Only because I've held on to so many attachments that I no longer need to hold on to. And so the more that I let go, the more I'm okay. And this time right now is giving us this gift of learning how to do this. Because each day is unknown.
Yes.
For everyone, we're all doing this together. Awesome.
We are.
Awesome job.
I'm going to ask you for